And guess what? Flo is here with the papers, back from her holidays.
Hello, I'm back.
She's North Koreaing Pyongyang, saying it's considering carrying out missile strikes on Guam, just hours after US President Donald Trump threatened North Korea with fire and fury, Flo.
That's right, an escalation of tension that's drawing mixed reactions. Let's start with the editorial in the Washington Post today that calls President Trump's threat reckless and unnecessary. To raise the specter of nuclear war is to draw a red line in the most foolish and destabilizing manner. It is, in fact, bombast that resembles nothing much more than the North Korean leader himself. What's needed is skilled diplomacy, not a rhetorical grenade, as says the Washington Post.
Other papers calling for action against North Korea, particularly in South Korea, in fact.
Well, let's take a look at the editorial of the Korea Times, the South Korean paper. You can see they're saying that it's time to punish North Korea. It's time now for pressure rather than dialogue, mainly through more sanctions. And the Korea Times comes back on a phone conversation that took place between the president of South Korea and the U.S. president yesterday. President Moon Jae-in stressed that there should be no outbreak of war on the Korean peninsula, and he also called for a peaceful diplomatic solution.
So there are calls for diplomacy, Flo. It's going to involve North Korea's regional ally, China, of course. What are Chinese papers saying about this, then?
Well, it's really interesting to look at how Chinese papers are reacting to this. China is in quite a delicate diplomatic situation here. You can see the editorial of the Globe and Times here that, on the one hand, is critical of North Korea, saying it was essentially embarking on the wrong path of developing nuclear and missile technology. But you can see in its title here of this editorial, it's also critical of the U.S. Its media and elites are the most narrow-minded. They're using the wrong logic, according to the Global Times, with respect to North Korea. And on top of that, they're trying to shift all the responsibility onto China. And this puts China in a very delicate situation. And that's why I guess you can see them being so critical here of the U.S., calling for a change of logic when it comes to North Korea.
Let's move on to a different story with Flo, getting a lot of attention in the press, of course. South African President Jacob Zuma surviving that motion of no confidence, called amid repeated allegations of corruption.
That's right. Now, this news was greeted by cheers and singing from MPs from Jacob Zuma's ANC party. But you can see here in the South African paper, the Mail and Guardian, that it was actually a narrow victory for those supporting his presidency, just 198 votes to 177. How long can President Jacob Zuma survive? That's what the Mail and Guardian wants to know. And in fact, it has some quotes from members of the opposition who say not so long. That goes for Zuma and for the ANC. So you can see there's talking about from a state capture to a party fracture. Now, according to the opposition, the members of the opposition quoted in this article, yesterday's outcome actually exposed divisions within the ANC and marked the beginning of the ANC's destruction.
Others, of course, expecting Zuma perhaps just to bounce back very quickly. I mean, it's not the first time he's survived a vote of no confidence.
There have been several votes of non-confidence that he has survived. You can see this very interesting analysis piece in Slate, the African version of Slate, which points out that ever since he came to power in 2009, Jacob Zuma has survived everything that's been thrown at him. Accusations of corruption, accusations of abusing the public office, electoral setbacks. You can see they're talking about how he is the unsinkable president who has once again resisted. What's clear in all this is that he's a very seasoned politician. But there's a lot more criticism coming out of the editorial in The Guardian today that says, look, Zuma goes on, but at what cost? The president has survived yet another vote of non-confidence, but he has damaged his party as well as the country.
Let's move to Australia now. A heated debate there over legalizing gay marriage. Currently, in fact, same-sex marriage is just not legal in Australia.
It's a little bit tricky, and essentially the government is drawing criticism for the way it's going about doing this. You can get all the details here in ABC, the national broadcaster in Australia. So essentially the Australian government plans to gauge support for same-sex marriage through a voluntary postal ballot. And now the government had initially hoped to hold a compulsory national vote, but this was rejected twice by the Senate, including this week. And so this postal vote is their backup plan, but they could cost the taxpayer, well, quite a lot of money, 122 million Australian dollars. Now, what's tricky is that this postal vote essentially wouldn't be legally binding. And so that's why the opposition is so upset about the way the government is going about this. You can read more about that in the Huffington Post, they essentially accused the government of wasting time and wasting taxpayer money. You can see here a screen grab of opposition leader in the Senate. This is Penny Wong. She made a speech in the Senate yesterday that gathered quite a lot of attention. She says that this postal vote is just going to open up children of the LGBTQ community to hatred. She herself is an openly gay politician. She slammed this idea as being born of weakness and division. It's a hot topic in the Australian press. If this postal vote does indeed happen, it would happen in November, and we'll, of course, keep you posted.
I'm sure you will. Flo, thank you very much. It's good to be with us back on the programme, of course.